Welcome to today's episode of Sports Scandals, where I document and narrate the stories about your favorite players of all time from yesteryear and the biggest rumors and scandals about them that y'all are more than likely never heard of. You know, before social media. I don't know if these scandals and rumors are true. I'm just putting the stories out in the air so that everybody can know about them. On our first episode, we got the man of pristine image, the doctor, Julius Erving II. Let's get to it.
I'm off ahead, so I guess I'm labeled a headhunter. Throw me on the verse and I promise you'll probably last longer. Moving through the masses, I'm crashing the main circuit. Too bad cause I had the plans to be modest, remain closer.
Julius Winfield Erving II was born as the middle child in Long Island, New York on February 22nd, 1950 to Callie and Julius Erving Sr. His parents divorced when Julius was just 3 years old, and just 6 years later, his father was killed in a car crash, leaving his mom to raise the kids on her own in a housing project in Long Island. Julius played basketball outside every day, rain, sleet, or snow, but one morning, at the age of 12, it happened to be too cold for him and his friend, so they rode their bikes down to the Salvation Army, an all-white area, and asked if they could play indoors. The coach accepted them, and Julius and his friend were the only two black kids on the team. This is where Julius got his start playing organized basketball. At 13, he played ball at his local high school, Roosevelt High, and that is actually where he first got his nickname, the Doctor, from his best friend. That nickname would eventually stick with him throughout his entire career and eventually his life. By his senior year, he was just 6'3", and while that is still tall for the normal human being, he eventually would grow even taller. He became one of the best players on the team, but barely had any college interest. Only one scout came to look at him and rate him, but that was it. At the park, though, he was a completely different animal. One day, he stopped at the free throw line on a fast break, glided through the air, and dunked it. A high school coach actually saw him do this and made a call to the head coach of the University of Massachusetts, which is actually where Dr. J ended up going for school and to play ball. As a freshman, he was absolutely spectacular. Flying through the air, dazzling passes, the full gamut. His career was really starting to take off and people were really getting to know the player named Julius Erving. Julius's younger brother came up to visit him on his birthday at college, and he was complaining about some pain in his arm, his joints, and he also had a rash. Julius had always taken care of his brother, and he became like a father figure to him once his father passed away. His brother was always sick with asthma attacks and things of that nature his entire life. Once his brother, whose name was Marvin, got home from visiting Julius, he was immediately admitted to the hospital and diagnosed with lupus. Over the next 3 months, his brother's health deteriorated rapidly. One day, Julius's mom calls him and tells him that he needs to come back home immediately because his brother is really ill and they are unsure if he will make it through the night. So Julius and his best friend beelined it back to Long Island to be with his family. When Julius gets to the hospital to see his brother, Marvin tells him that they need to come and get me, referring to the angels. His brother was really tired and he was over all of the pain and suffering and he was just ready to depart. Those were Marvin's last words to Julius. After Marvin's funeral and Julius returned to school, his opponents had to face two people, Julius and his brother, because Julius played with Marvin's spirit within him. By his junior year, Julius had grew to 6'6", averaged 27 points, and grabbed 20 rebounds per game. The NCAA prohibited dunking at the time, so Julius's high-flying abilities were stunted greatly. But hold on. While all this was going on, while in college, Julius and famous singer Natalie Cole, daughter of the legendary Nat King Cole, actually had a fling, per her own words. She stated in an interview with Jet magazine that while they were at school together, they did mess around. Now, there had been rumors about it, but she actually did confirm it herself. There are also rumors that he actually took her virginity. But back to the story. Dr. J actually had to save all of the high-flying dunks for the playground, and he was the king at the most famous park of them all, the Rucker. Since the 50s, Rucker Park had hosted the biggest NBA, ABA, and street ball players out there. If you guys get a chance, you can watch some small clips of Dr. J playing at the Rucker here on YouTube. I'll link it in the description. His legendary status at the Rucker did nothing but grow his fame in the basketball world. The Rucker had a bunch of nicknames for him and he didn't like any of them. Little Hawk, the Claw, Black Moses, the list goes on. He finally told him, hey, if you want to call me a nickname, you call me the Doctor. That's when Dr. J's nickname really took off and stuck throughout the basketball community. With the street ball style of hoop on the rise, it did not translate to the NBA. But in 1967, that's exactly how they played in the ABA. It was seen as the more exciting league, very flashy. In other words, the NBA despised dunking, but the ABA embraced it. The ABA signed players that the NBA just certainly would not. College underclassmen, high school players, whomever. If you were an exciting player, they wanted you, so you knew they were coming after the doctor himself. As an underclassman, Julius was offered $125,000 guaranteed to play for the ABA for 4 years, and he took the deal in a heartbeat in 1971. When he got to the ABA, people were really able to see that he was shackled and constrained in college, and he absolutely unleashed in the league. Even his teammates from UMass were shocked at what they saw when they watched him in the ABA. In 1972, Julius gets married to Turquoise Brown, the beginning of a 31-year marriage. But wait. We do have another rumor out there. Word on the Philadelphia streets is that Phyllis Hyman and Dr. J were messing with each other prior to him marrying Turquoise. Word on the street is that he left Phyllis to marry Miss Brown. This supposedly messed up Phyllis for the rest of her life because she did think that he was going to choose her and marry her. Let's get back to the story. Most of the stories about Dr. J's high-flying greatness were from word of mouth and short video clips, so people were majorly intrigued about the prospect playing for the Virginia Squires. In his first year, he averaged 23.5 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. The NBA wanted Julius badly, and the ABA knew it. But here's another story that a lot of y'all probably don't even know about. In 1972, Dr. J became eligible for the NBA draft, getting picked by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, 12th overall pick. But prior to the draft, he did sign a contract with the Atlanta Hawks for over $1 million, which came after a dispute with the Squires where he demanded to renegotiate the terms. He then discovered that his agent, Steve Arnold, was employed by the Squires, and he convinced Julius to sign a below-market contract, which created a dispute between the NBA and the ABA. He actually joined the Hawks, played in some preseason games while all of this mess was going on. The Hawks were fined for that violation, by the way, and the court ended up ruling that Erving could not play for any other team except for the Squires. So, no NBA for Julius just yet. He was sent back to the ABA. In 1973, Julius was traded to his hometown as a strategic move by the owner of the ABA to keep Julius out of the NBA's hands due to the Squires being unable to pay him his salary. While there, he was the greatest show on earth, and everybody came out to see him. Packed out crowds every night, and he left everyone in awe after every single game. In his first season with his hometown team, the Nets, he won a scoring title and the championship. He was the most talked about player even without the ABA having any television contracts. Remember what I said earlier. The NBA and the ABA were in two totally different worlds. The NBA had all of the television contracts. The ABA had none. In 1976, his star rose even more. In the first dunk contest ever, which was started by the ABA, by the way, he dunked it from the free throw line. The ABA and the NBA also merged, in part thanks to Julius Erving, and he was sent to the Philadelphia 76ers because the Nets could not afford to pay him anymore. Dr. J was finally able to show everyone who he was on television with the NBA, and he dazzled everybody. Through the 1970s, he was the face of the NBA, and in 1983, after a long dry spell, he finally won that elusive NBA championship. But hold on. During that time, the biggest scandal of his career did occur. Now, I want you guys to remember, Dr. J was seen as a very clean-cut man, very debonair. He spoke, very well, and people spoke very highly of him. So this scandal that actually did occur in 1980, it did, put a big dent into his reputation, but that did not come until later. Let's get into it. In 1980, he had an illegitimate child with then sports journalist Samantha Stevenson. His daughter with her, Alexandra Stevenson, was once considered a tennis prodigy. Julius said that when he told Turquoise, she was pissed and started throwing things at him and fighting him. He did admit that they did fight and that he would only hit her back if he felt he had no other choice throughout their marriage. They sat down and had a deep discussion about the situation, and Turquoise told him that they would get a paternity lawyer and that he will pay Samantha a certain amount every month and that he will have no contact with the child ever. She stated that Alexandra was to never know who her father is and that Samantha and Alexandra were to stay 200 miles away from them. Both sides agreed, both sides obliged. How they were able to hide this for as long as they were able to hide it is beyond me, but hey, I digress. Back to the story. Now here's what's even crazier. Turquoise and Samantha were actually friends, and Samantha even ghost wrote an article piece with Turquoise about her life as an NBA wife for the New York Times. Turquoise absolutely felt betrayed, and she was absolutely she had every right to feel betrayed. Initially, Julius did deny the child was his because he said that Samantha got around and was involved with several men at the time, but eventually it was confirmed that it was his child. Now, this next statement that I'm going to make, y'all, is, it's like, come on, man, you have to have some self-awareness about what you're putting in your books and speeches and interviews, but listen to this. In his book, Dr. J wrote that he would have never had a child with Samantha had she not gotten braces on her teeth, because prior to that, she was only giving him fellatio. What he said was in his book is that he would go over to Samantha's house for, comforting him and she would always give him head. Never had sex until she got braces put on her mouth. Come on, man. All right. Anyway, back to the story. This next rumor is probably going to blow y'all's mind, and I know for a fact that the vast majority of y'all have not heard of this one. But please buckle up. Now, again, I do not know if this is true. This is just what's out in the Philly streets, and it has been out there since the 80s, since the situation occurred. Listen to this. In 1982, during the famous Teddy Pendergrass car accident that paralyzed him for life, there are rumors that say that Turquoise was in the car along with the other individual that was confirmed to be there. There are a lot of stories out there that say that the other person in the car with Teddy was a friend of Turquoise's, and Turquoise was sitting in the back seat. They say that it was covered up by the cops because Dr. J's stature at the time, but I don't know if this is true or not. That's just the word on the Philly streets. Another story alleges that Dr. J, since he was so powerful in Philly in the 80s at the time, arranged for the story about the transsexual being with Teddy in the car to hurt him, and also arranged for Turquoise's name to not be included in the story. It was said that Turk was fed up with all of the affairs from Julius, so she would run to Teddy for comfort and to scratch that proverbial itch, if you get what I mean. Now, I know I just threw a lot of heat at y'all, but we got some more. Let's keep it going. In 1987, Dr. J retires from the NBA after 16 seasons. In 1988, Julius was hosting a clinic at the local gym, and Alexandra stated that she wanted to go. So guess what? Her mom allowed it. She wrote her name in big block letters so that Julius could know that it was his child, but he claimed that he did not realize it until she walked off at the end of the camp. During the conclusion of the camp, Dr. J told Alexandra that it was nice to meet her and was going to give her an autograph. But she said, "I don't want your damn autograph. I want my father." And she stomped away. Alexandra's friend, who was with her during the time that they were at the camp, witnessed tears in Dr. J's eyes that day after the interaction between the two. That's when she realized Dr. J knew that that was his daughter that he got confronted by. Fast forward to 1999, while Alexandra was playing at Wimbledon, the story did break about her being Dr. J's daughter because a newspaper published her birth certificate somehow. After that, Julius ended up putting out a statement saying that was his daughter, and that is when the floodgates of reports started to happen. From my understanding, what Julius said is that he ended up putting out the story because he wanted to get it out and get it behind them, and he did not want this to become an even bigger distraction for his daughter while she's going through the most important tournament of her life. But that did not stop the floodgates from opening up. Now, fast forward to 2000, his son, Corey, passed away in a drowning accident at 19 years old. His body was found in a pond not far from his home, and the family was devastated. Now, Julius states that this is what caused the rift in his marriage and ultimately led to he and Turquoise's divorce, but that was untrue. We will get into the real reason why shortly. It is said that his son, Corey, had some issues that included heavy drug usage, which may have played a role in his death. In fact, there are stories that say that Corey was addicted to crack heavy out in Florida and that he had been to rehab more than once. But hold on, y'all, we got a little bit more scandal out there about the man that they called the doctor. In 2003, Dr. J had yet another child while married to Turquoise, with a woman that would eventually become his second wife, Doris Madden. This is the straw that broke the camel's back for Turquoise, and soon after, she divorced him and took him to the cleaners. During divorce proceedings, New York Post page 6 received a sex tape which included Dr. J and another woman that was not Turquoise from years prior. Turquoise and her team said that the tape did not come from them, but Erving and his team stated otherwise. So I don't know, y'all. There is a sex tape out there with Dr. J. And yeah, so I don't know if y'all knew about that, but yeah, there is a sex tape featuring Dr. J. Doris and Julius had 2 more kids with each other, got married, and are still together till this day. I hear that even to this day that he is still a certified Mac Daddy and is always on the prowl when he is out in public. And that concludes today's stories of sports scandals featuring Dr. J. Y'all be easy.